Hello, fellow residents of Tamriel. It is the Beav. Today was the release of the Scribes of Fate DLC Update 37 on console. I'm a big fan of Stam sorcs, and I ran Kinraws on this for the longest time. And with Wrecking Blows with two-handed weapons, getting a buff to where it now applies Major Berserk, which was the same buff that you got from Kinraws. I decided to get away from the Kinraws and throw something different together. This is what I've came up with so far. It's very static and very standard, I guess you could say. The build itself is first front bar. We got Aegis Collar. We're using the Great Sword. We are using the precise trait for the increased weapon and spell critical, and I got poisons on these. You could probably put a flame damage glyph on this to proc like a burning status effect if you wanted to. It might actually do better than the poisons. I'm not really sure. I just can't get away from poisons. I like using them. Like poisons just seem like what a stamina character should use for me. So I guess that's my prerogative. I don't know, but whatever. um, our rings and necklace are all Aegis Collar as well. The all the jewelry is in Bloodthirsty. All of them have a weapon and spell damage enchantment on them. That enchantment might look a little bit different for anyone who hasn't been keeping up. The if you make a weapon damage glyph, or what used to be a weapon damage glyph or a spell damage glyph, this is a glyph that you now get. They're one and the same for the most part, except for if you make an old weapon damage glyph, it adds 10 stamina recovery. If you make an old spell damage glyph, it gives you 10 stamina, or 10 magicka recovery. So that's the difference between the two, but both of them, either of them now provide just weapon and spell damage, so it makes it very hybridized. All in Bloodthirsty, I think I went over that. The Aegis Color set provides a lot of spell damage and weapon and spell damage, some stamina recovery, and a juicy little bleed damage from the Aegis when he comes out and just starts doing his spinneroonie. Um, I'm backbarring the Maelstrom's Perfected Greatsword. I have infused with a weapon and spell damage glyph on it. If you don't have this in Perfected, it's not a big deal. You can use just the normal version of this out of normal VMA. The only difference is you'll be losing 1190 offensive penetration, which isn't going to make a huge deal. It's not going to be world breaking, I promise. I am using Stormfist. This is the monster helm out of Tempest Island. There are a couple different helms you could use here. You could use Veladrith. You could use Kalnors. You could use honestly, I need to give Reliquant, or not Reliquants, I need to give Zaun a shot here, because I think Zaun works very well in this situation, to be honest with you. Um, but it might even be best in slot right now. I don't keep up with that stuff anymore, but I think Zaun is actually really good on Stam characters now. But I like Stormfist. I like this on all of my Stam characters because it provides a stamina recovery. You get shock damage, which can help proc the concuss status effect, and the final crush of the fist does 15.5k physical damage when it closes. It can happen every 8 seconds as well, so it happens quite often. I love this. I love this monster helm. It's one of my favorites. Reliquins. This is the other set that we got. This is not the perfected version. If you have the perfected version, that's amazing. But the only difference between the perfected and non-perfected is there's a fifth piece bonus of, if I'm not mistaken, 1,000 and some maximum stamina. I think that's the difference in them, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But it's not going to be it's not going to be world breaking to have uh, the non-perfected version like I have here. All of my all of my body pieces are in the Divine's trait, and all of them have max magicka or max stamina glyphs on them. Looking at our character sheet, 64 points into stamina, using lava foot soup and saltrice, or salt rice, however you want to pronounce that. I am using the Thief Mundus Stone for weapon and spell critical rating. 13k in max magicka, almost 22k in maximum health, 31k maximum stamina, 1932 stamina recovery. Um, your weapon damage sits at 4664, weapon critical sits at about 35%. With potion buffs and using the one of the passives that sorcs get, this will get right at the 50% critical mark, and maybe even a little bit higher. So literally every other attack's going to be a critical hit. Um, Spell and physical resistances are right around 13 to 14k. When we have our hurricane active, they're real close to 20k a piece. So nice resistances for when you're in hard content. Skills, we are using Stampede, we are using Hurricane, we're using Barb Trap, Volatile Familiar, Twilight Tormentor, and Greater Storm Atronach. Back bar, we're using Wrecking Blow. Like I said earlier, this now provides Major Berserk for you, so we want to, it's 5 seconds worth of Major Berserk, so we want to make sure we're keeping this up as much as possible. We are using Daedric Prey to buff the damage from our pets and from our Storm Atronach ultimate. We are using Crystal Fragments. This is kind of a priority. You don't want to hit this, you don't want to use the channeled version of this. You want to wait until you cast an ability and it procs that instant fragment, and then hit that fragment. It does, it loses the channel cast. It does 66% more damage and costs 50% less magicka. So it's heavy hitting and very cheap. Volatile Familiar, we will be keeping this active on our bar for the pulsing shock damage that it does. The Twilight Tormentor, we will just be leaving static. It's just going to be doing damage on its own. That's it. Like we're not going to activate this. The rotation is very simple. It's light attack Stampede, light attack Hurricane, light attack Barb Trap, Barb Swap. I will do light attack. Going into the fight, let me start this over. I apologize. I'm going to activate my Volatile Familiar as I'm getting ready to start the battle. And then it's going to be light attack Stampede, light attack Hurricane, light attack Barb Trap, Bar Swap, light attack Daedric Prey, and then I'm gonna light attack Wrecking Blow for the most part constantly. The only time I'm not going to use Wrecking Blow is if I have to reapply Daedric Prey, if I have to reapply Volatile Familiar, or if my Crystal Fragment's procced. But if none of those need to happen, it's just light attack Wrecking Blow until one of these things need to happen. So after, as your Stampede's falling off, you want to bar swap back and start over. It's very static. You could probably squeeze more DPS out of this if you made it more dynamic and you kept the bar swapping between abilities and stuff like that, just to keep up that uptime on the Major Berserk. But this static rotation I have right here, when we do lose it, we don't lose it for very long, and you're not constantly bar swap, bar swap, bar swap, bar swap. It's very static, so I like that about it. Blue Tree, we are going with, we have Fighting Finesse, we have our Deadly Aim, we have Master at Arms, and we have Wrathful Strikes, all slotted. You could mess around with these a little bit if you wanted to. You might be able to take off the Wrathful Strikes and put on Backstabber if you know you're going into somewhere where you can always be behind the enemy, or trade out Fighting Finesse for Backstabber if you know you're going in somewhere where you're always going to be flanking. So you just use that at your discretion, but this is what I'm using currently at the moment, so those are the four that I use. In my red tree, I am using the Boundless Vitality, Fortified, and Rejuvenation. Um, and I also have on, right now I have on this Spirit Mastery just for quicker res. You can put on like Strategic Reserve for more health recovery for every 10 ultimate you have if you like. You can put on Bloody Renewal to keep your stamina up after killing enemies. I mean, there's all kinds of options. And Green Tree, do what you want over there. It is what it is. But I think I've taken up enough of your time here. I don't want to take up too much further. I'm gonna go ahead and parse this out. I'll even speed it through this, so you don't have to sit here and watch the whole thing. We'll kind of time lapse it to go pretty quick through it, and then we'll come back and I'll give you. We'll look at the numbers and we'll talk a little bit more before we close out the video. So let's do this. Alright there, so there you have it. It took 3 minutes and 13 seconds. It was 108, almost 109k. I've had this actually hit about 113k before. My pets are going to just attack right off the bat, but watch this. With new quality of life improvement to housing. Hit right on the D-pad and circle, and bam, test dummy gone. I like it. Reset your test dummies instantly. It's kind of cool. Alright guys, hits really hard. There's still a lot of tweaking to do, but it's something that, I don't know, I've been having fun with it. Aegis Color is one of my favorite sets. I love that Aegis coming out and just watching him spin a Rooney things to death. It's amazing to me. And this has been a fun little build to play around with. I'm definitely going to look into a little bit more of it here before long. But I think that's all I got for you right now. When I update anything else, I'll let you know. But thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it greatly, and happy adventuring.